The answers to the 5 most frequently asked questions on sustainability. That's what you'll hear today from globally recognized experts. Hi, I'm Tony Redmond of the Advocate for Change. I was part of a number of discussions on sustainability last week and recognized a few questions that kept coming up. So I've put together this small presentation with responses from some globally recognized experts so you can get answers to these questions. But first, let's answer another common question. What is sustainability? The term sustainability refers to the ability of our environment, governance systems, and economic systems to sustain human life. It covers a broad range of issues that impact the condition of our environment and the quality of life for human beings, including environmental protection, human rights and social justice, global politics, and economics. The number one frequently asked question, how bad is the problem?
We are already in trouble. The stability we all depend on is breaking. Is this how our story is due to end? A tale of the smartest species doomed by that all too human characteristic of failing to see the bigger picture in pursuit of short-term goals.
For the entire planet, it is a disaster. And for scientists, it is unequivocal. Humans are to blame. All this is entirely consistent with predictions and repeated warnings. The only surprise is the speed of the change. Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead. No more hesitancy, no more excuses, no more waiting for the others to move first. There is simply no more time for that.
The number two question, how long have we known about the problem?
And in 1896, it was already understood by a great Swedish chemist named Arrhenius, who won one of the first Nobel Prizes, that because the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was rising because of all the burning of coal in his time, that the planet would gradually warm.
And that transformation is required because while the world knew since the 1890s that we were facing the warming of the climate, we chose not to heed the advice of scientists. And that which could have been done in more than a century is now being reduced to be done in less than a decade.
Question number three, why did we let the problem get this bad?
Well, I think the first thing to say about why we're ill prepared for this is because there's been a generations long campaign of lies and misinformation to make sure that people don't take this problem seriously. We're living in the wake of the success of what the fossil fuel sector have done. Certainly throughout my lifetime, it's been very difficult to find a space until very, very recent years where people would admit that climate change is definitely being caused majority by carbon emissions, majority by the fossil fuel sector. So that's been a massive problem. But then on top of that, you also have an economic system which is set up to engage in perpetual growth on a finite planet. And that is working alongside an political system, which is short-termist by its design. And
so even a country like the United States with the Constitution and the rule of law cannot resist arrogant, greedy people with so much wealth. What do? They pay for the politicians. They give the money around. They pay for the campaigns. You know what else they do? They buy whole departments of universities and say you should have free market departments that only give lectures about how wonderful the free market is without regulation. They bought the whole Department of Economics of George Mason University, for example. They set up what we call think tanks in the United States. These are unthink tanks because they're paid to tell lies, like the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation. And they give them money, and then they say, global warming isn't real, or global warming doesn't matter, or global warming, we can't allow that to violate my free market private property rights. And so $50 billion can spread a lot of damage.
Question 4. How are climate change and poverty related?
As you heard from President Macron this morning, there is now the beginning of the understanding that poverty and climate cannot be separated. That education and climate cannot be separated. Failure to provide the critical finance and that of loss and damage is measured, my friends, in lives and livelihoods in our communities. This is immoral and it is unjust.
Because we're living in a time where we all ascribe to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and we have sustainability principles, which wouldn't have been the case a century ago with coal mining. What's happening right now in the Congo, in the whole history of slavery and colonial pillage, there has never been an instance in which there is more human degradation and suffering that is generating more profit at the top of the chain and touching the lives of more people around the world. That's what makes this worse than anything that's happened before. It's today, our moral standards today, and yet those principles have been jettisoned in the face of this scramble to profit, and the people of the Congo and their environment are the expense account.
And the most important question, how do we fix this problem?
No, the best way to spot an idiot: look for the person who is cruel. Empathy and compassion are evolved states of being. They require the mental capacity to step past our most primal urges. I'm here to tell you that when someone's path through this world is marked with acts of cruelty, they have failed the first test of an advanced society. They never forced their animal brain to evolve past its first instinct. They never forged new mental pathways to overcome their own instinctual fears. And so their thinking and problem solving will lack the imagination and creativity that the kindest people have in spades. Over my many years in politics and business, I have found one thing to be universally true: the kindest person in the room is often the smartest.
As we heard from Vanessa, what is required of us now is absolute transformation and not reform of our institutions.
And they now each have a net worth of $50 billion. That's too much for anybody in this world. There really should be a 100% limit on wealth above a certain level, because when you get so rich, not only do you go crazy with arrogance, but you become too powerful.
I ask us today not to leave Paris without understanding that the bolstering of the political ambition that is required must secure transformation and not reform. And I ask us to ensure that those of us who are heads of government and heads of state recognize that the world cannot continue in the shadow of an old imperial order that does not see countries, does not feel countries, does not hear countries, and worse, does not see, feel, or hear people.
Well, oneness is the recognition that A, we are part of one planet and we are one humanity. And unless we live with that consciousness and shape every moment of our production and consumption with that consciousness, we are going to destroy ourselves, which we are. The melting of the glaciers is one of the very severe indicators. The 1%, of course, is the symbol of the concentration of wealth under the rules of the neoliberal economies that are basically, on the one hand, turning every natural resource into a war zone.
We have heard from the experts on the burning questions. So, to summarize today's message, we are at a critical stage with respect to our physical environment. Our planet is breaking down around us, and if we don't act now, it will soon be unsuitable for human life. We've been aware of this problem for over a century, but we ignored all the warnings and signs because our global leaders adopted a socioeconomic model that is based on excessive consumption and exploitation of fellow human beings, and also engaged in an ongoing misinformation campaign to hide the gravity of the problem. Consequently, poverty, suffering, and hardships have been exported to 2/3 of the world, and our environment has been damaged beyond repair, while a small group of people enjoy ridiculous wealth and power at the expense of the majority of the world and future generations of human beings. Our only way off this path to self-destruction is if by some miracle our global leaders and power brokers develop a higher sense of consciousness, end wars for world domination, completely transform our governance and economic systems, and work together in the interest of all human beings and the creatures under our care. Thanks for taking the time to view this presentation. I hope the information shared was beneficial. For more information on sustainability and how it affects you, please visit our website, advocateforchange.com, and pick up a copy of Leading the Change, also available on Amazon. Please like and share this video. We need your support to continue our efforts to promote positive change. Thank you.